Koe no, tēnā koe e te kai arahi ki te arawhata i te wāhinga. O tira te pāpa e tuta. Kōka e moe hau. Whakatau i o tātou tuākana taina, karangatanga maha ki roto i tō tātou whare. I runga te pāo hiru hārama a ki roto i te poho o kapohanga ara. Nā reira, tēnā tātou i o tātou mate, tēnā tātou i a tātou ana. E hui hui ngā tāngata he hoki ngā whakaro ki a rātou ma. Hunga ko whēturangi tia, e kore ārika rika i roto i a tātou. Nā tātou ta maiti i roto o wharekahika tērā i hoki mai i te whenua tau mai ki te wākai. Koe anō, tāpiri atu ki aia te pūkahu o ngā mate. Nei tō tātou pāpā i a Monty Grant i mbate i te atane. No roto o ngā kāwai o te whānau a pōkai, whānau hini au tā. Ngati Porou. Hoi anō, rātou te hunga mate ki a rātou. Tako tō koutou i te ai o te rangi ki roto o mātangi reia oki atua. Tātou e tau nei, e hika mā, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou, kia ora tātou katoa. Kia ora tātou, i roto i ngā whakamātautau o te wā ki a tātou i te taukataha nei, kei te haere tunu. Hoi anō, ko tō tātou pai, he iwi pono tātou ki tō tātou kāinga, he iwi pono tātou ki tō tātou taiao, he iwi pono tātou ki tō tātou kaihanga. Māna e arahina i a tātou, i roto i ngā whakamātautau o te wā. Hoi anō, huri no, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou, kia ora tātou katoa. Takarawa mai ki tēnei wā, ko tau mai te pirimia hou mo tō tātou whenua o Aotearoa, me tōna kāwanatanga, nā reira tērā āhuatanga tērā, i tau mai ki roto i te mātotoru o ngā kaupapa Ngati Porou i te rānei. Nō reira e aku rangatira, ngā tuākana taina, mātua tīpuna, tamariki mokopuna, taukete, hunaonga, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou, kia ora tātou katoa. Te wiwi Ngati, no Pororangi, he iwi moke, no waiapu, no whanga o kena, no hikurangi, he Ngati, te iwi, he whanoke, e haere ana, ki te whakanga, ka peka mai nei, ki te marae, kia mi, kia tangi, hei kone rae, te iwi, hei kone rae. Hoi anō, tēnā tātou.
Apologies received. Wow. Kali Potai, Derek Hope, Mani Raihania, Na Iruera Raihania, Rimi Tidiu Raihania, Jasmine Leach, Bonnie Parata, Gwenda Findlay, Arihia Waihi, Juliet Lardeli, Jamie Lee Ngata, Lee Ratapu, Stacey Hohipa, Winsome Kennedy, Natalia Rangakarita, Dawn Purirangi, Rangi Williams, Aroha Mead, Olive Tamatea, Anne-Marie Karanui, Rawinia Soulis, Fiona Morris, Kira Diaman, Natalia Whangaparita again, Winsome Kennedy, Rangi Rianne Williams, Dorina Painga, Lisa Grace, Stacey Hohipa, Laurie Sadlia, Amwe Taso, Rena Ellis, Valerie Lewis, Gina Waikaho, Rhonda Tibble, Valencia Little, Lena Little, Jacina Moran, Margaret Rangimaria Hoia, Shanae Brooking McDonald, Denise Walker, Missy Wimutu, Hope Sadlia, Amanda Sadlia, Sheanne Johnson, Egypt Keelan, Tuari Kai Tai, Dawn Kururangi, Johina Ratima, Diane McMillan, Kirby Wimutu, Laurie Harrison, Chick Haig, Lorena Boyle, Rangi Hoata Kingi, Saliba, Kelba Rudu. Thank you, brother. Hayley Rudu, Leslie Williams, Sandra Pere, Gwenda Findlay, Alexi Ratima, Julia Brooking, Kelly Pohio, Lisette Hayes, Kay Fairley, Adrian Stewart, Ria Tamepo, Jocelyn Broughton, Lisa Porter, Devika Mala, Sandra Pere, Chyla Solid, Starlene Otene, Helena Higgins, Ashley Johnson, Naomi Tumona, Hine Hariata Te Oraiti Peipi, Matanuku Mahuika, Min Vet. No. Tamati Reedy, Tilly Reedy, Liddy Petty Reedy, Pere Maitai, Wananga Reedy Walker, Claude Walker, Deborah Walker, Lionel Walker, Te Koingo Acton Reedy, Kushla Manuel, Taran Papuni, Tia Westrup, Hine Rangihona, Tui Womanhoven, Fuchsia Harrison, Matukore Tibble, Kiara Jean Rangiwai, Shane Sargent, Waipare Tangaire, Lionel Matenga, Sylvia Waihi, Tumatawenga Kururangi, Karma Morel, Alex Akuhata, Val Lewis, and Rena Ellis.
Are there any other apologies?
Okay.
Ngati Lewis.
Kia ora.
And Rhonda Tibble's here, and I think Tui Womanhoven's here too.
Ai, ki waho.
Yeah, she's here. So there's. Kia ora. Well, they're on the list here, so we can take them off. Tui. Yeah. Kapai. Yeah.
All right.
Kapai.
We apologize.
Thank you. Any other apologies? His somebody's put it in, Kate. Wiremu wanoa. Hine uru taitoko. Too much. Ewiata Williams. Kāpuke tapu. Anybody prepared to move the receipt of the apologies? Amoho Kamo, Roberta Reedy. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, carried. Ka hunuku tātou ki ngā meneti o tērā o ngā hui. I tūki roto o ue pohatu. I te malama o noema o tērā tau, te kaumāiwa o noema. Hoi anō, kei kone ngā meneti, ko te hau, ko etahi o koutou ko pānui ngā meneti. Is there anybody that's read the minutes and was at the hui, prepared to move koena ngā koro o taua hui? Jay Ngāri Mu and Philip Hope. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, carried. Are there any matters arising from the minutes that may not be on the agenda? Hoi anō. Ka hunuku au ki tērā taha ke kore au e. Koene te pai o tō tātou whare. Ai, te huri hai. Hoi anō, koe nei te ripuata te whakarāpopototanga o ngā kōrero kei roto i ngā pukapukana. Kei roto i o koutou ringaringa. Hoi anō, ko te whakatau, ko te iau te whakatau i te toko maha i roto i taku whai kōrero. Hoi anō, ka tāpiri atu e nā kōrero ki roto i tēnei ripuata mai i te tiamana i tēnei wā. Hoi anō, ka mutu pē te hui, ko te tau, ko tēnei, ko te hākene. Kei te kōrero au i te reo o te whare nei, mā koutou e pānui mai i runga i te tapu nei. Ngā wāhanga ka hapa i au, ka hono atu koutou i tērā wāhanga. Koina. This year's been a watershed year in all more ways than one. Kei te turu mai. A tāwhiri mā te i tēnei wā. Hoi anō, i roto i nā āhuatanga katoa, i hua mai etahi āhuatanga i tā tātou runanga, me Ngati Porou, nui tonu kei te kāinga, me te tautoko mai i a Ngati Porou kei te whenua kei te ao. Atu i tērā, kia mau tātou ki tō tātou mana motu hake. I roto i o tātou kārangaranga hapu, i tō tātou iwi, mō tō tātou whare. Mai pōtiki rua ki te toka atai au. Ko tōna tuanui, ko rangi nui, ko tōna papa, ko papa tuanuku. Ko te rau kūmara tētahi taha, ko te hikumutu tētahi taha. Te tatau o muri, o mua rānei, kei pōtiki rua. Te tatau o mua, o muri rānei, kei te toka atai au. Ko ngā whare kei roto i tō tātou whare, ko o tātou kārangaranga hapu mai i tētahi moka ki tētahi moka. Nā reira, kāre he kāinga i tuatu i tō tātou kāinga. Te whenua kupu whakāri o ngā uri a Ngati Porou. Mā tātou e tieki, mā tātou e pūmau, mā tātou e whakaora i te āhuatanga, kia whaiwāhi tātou ki te wairua te whenua, ki o tātou wairua ka hono atu a hei kawe i a Ngati Porou, e hanga whakamua nei tātou i roto i te kōpua o te wā. I roto i tērā āhuatanga, e ka autaia. Tuhene atu ki te 1 miliona tāra i whaiwāhi i te kini mai, hei rauora mo tātou i roto i ngā rākai mua i a tātou. Hoi anō, number 2. I roto i te mahi teka. Oh, this is the wrong thing. Whakahihi au ki ngā mahi a Ngati Porou kei te kāinga i runga i te āhuatanga o te āwha i a Gabriel. I whitiki, i malangake, te iti, te rahi, te whakamataku i roto i tō tātou rohe, te tiaki i a tātou anō. Kei te kite atu koutou i roto i ngā mahi i te reo Pākehā. Kāre tātou i tatari mā tētai hala mai te ki me pēnei me pēra. Ka whakārake, ka mahi a ngā mahi. E tahi taima i runga i te mōhio, ko tātou kei te mōhio tō tātou kāinga. Nui ki atu tō tātou mōhio ia wai rānei e waho i tō tātou rohe. I roto i tēnā āhuatanga ko ngā tāngata e whakatika rori e rā āhuatanga. Kāre rātou tatari ki tai mai te ngā pāhi te ki me whakatika tēnei rori. Ko tīmatake. Te mahi mā tātou i muri mai, ke whai wāhi, te wāhi e tika ana hei utu i a rātou, kia ngahoro mai ngā heringi te waha i ngā kaupapa o te matara o tātou. Kei te kōkiri tonu e ra āhuatanga i roto i etahi wāhanga o te mahi nei. Mihi ana ki te hunga Ngāti i noho i te whenua. Ngā taura here, i whakakao i rātou, o rātou whakaro, o rātou hoa, hei te mehe Ngati Porou katoa, engari, o ho rātou hoa i roto i ngā mahi kaipākihi, ngā pihinihi o te motu, etahi o te ao. Ki āwhina mai, ka ngahoro mai, etahi heringi, etahi piuta, etahi kai, taonga, hei whakarauora i tō tātou kāinga. Ke kore e he manawa, tiwi kāinga, ka watu e pupuri nei i tō tātou ahika. I roto i tērā āhuatanga, i tuku mai e tātou, te kaupapa i roto i te tairāwhiti, te taha i e rā o tātou karanga huhua o rongo whakaata o ngai tā manuhiri, o teitanga mahaki, me te kaunihera o tūranga, ki te whakatako tō tētahi kaupapa e tāi ei tātou te whakarauora i a tātou anō. Pihi moni. Hoi anō, tāku e ki nei kei te nama te karauna, kei te nama te kaunihera ki a tātou. Tō tātou rori, o tātou āhuatanga katoa, eka, ka mutu pea i ngā āhuatanga i heipu ki a tātou. Nā reira, koera tāku e kōrero nei whāia te mana motu hake o Ngati Porou i roto i ngā āhuatanga katoa ki a tātou. Anei e rārangi mai nei i ngā heringi i tuku mai ki a tātou i te wā, i muri tata mai i a Gabriel, te āwhina i ngā kaupapa o roto Ngati Porou. Nā, te tōpūtanga o ngā koha neki atu te miliona me te hawhe. He rua te kuata miliona i tai mai, te āwhina mai. Tō tātou hoa, tō tātou VC ia Willi Apiata, whakatū tētahi pō ki roto o Tāmaki Makaurau. Haere atu etahi o mātou ki reira ki tana pō, nāna i pihuka mai enei moni. I ona hoa te hoko ona āhuatanga katoa ke tau mai ko tēnā, ko tahi mano, ko tahi rau, whitu te kau. Rau, tāra, heka, kei te kau te haere i roti te miliona ka heke mai ki te rau. Ko ngā pihinihi, ko ngā kaipākihi, ko ngā business, ko ngā peke o Aotearoa nei, me ngā peke, ngā pihini Pākehā, pihini Māori, tai atu hoki i ngā iwi puta noa i Aotearoa. Kāre pātai mai, tau mai te āwhā ki roto i a tātou, eka, muri mai, ka tau mai te rua te kaumano, te kotahi raumano, i te tōpūtanga, anei te tōpūtanga. Nā, i tērā āhuatanga, ko te tiaki tangata, tiaki kāinga, tērā āhuatanga i whānau mai i roto i o tātou hapu kārangaranga o roto i te rohe, kei te haere tunu tēnā kaupapa, engari i mihi ana au ki tēnā hunga, tāku whakamaori i tēnā heiwi moi hu. Koera te kōrero a taku pāpā tame te malo mo tētahi tangata very busy, moi hu. So, working day and night. Nei, e tahi o ngā āhuatanga i heipu. I muri mai te āwhā, ka takoto mai tētahi āhuatanga kaupapa i roto i a tātou outrage and optimism, which we've termed O2O because it's quite close to H2O. But the ministerial inquiry report chaired by takutua hinea hekia me ona hoa i parau rātau ki roto i te rohe. Mai i Pōtikirua ki roto o ki te toka tai au, taura watu ki roto o tūranga ki roto i o tātou kārangaranga o te wairoa hopupu ho ngene matangira. Neke atu i te 500 ngā tāngata i tai ki aua hui, te whakaputa i o rātou whakaro mo te āhuatanga. E hai te mea mo te āhuatanga o te slash and silt, engari mo te whakaola i tō tātou whenua. Nā reira, mea kai no koutou kia pānui te outrage to optimism. I invite you to get a copy of it because it's still on the lips of everybody. And kei reira te tahi huarahi e tai ei tātou te whakaora i a tātou ano tō tātou kāinga. Mā tātou e arahi, mā etahi atu e hara mai te āwhina i a tātou te whakatutuki e tēnā kāinga. No te mea, tātou o Ngati Porou, kare kāinga ke atu, kei kone. Etahi ka tae haere ki wāhi ke noho ai, engari tātou kare tae, me noho mai ki kone. Te whakarauora i tō tātou kāinga. I tau toko katoa tia, toko tau puari i ngā recommendations i roto i taua ripoata. Hoi anō, arā te mōmonatanga o ngā kōrero kei roto i tātou ripoata. Koe nei e tahi o te hunga i moe hu. Arā no atu e tahi. Nā, ko tēnei āhuatanga i whānau mai i roto i a tātou. Me pēnei taku kōrero, ka tukuna ki taku pāpā ki a Ray, mana e whakarāpopoto e nei kōrero. Hoi anō, ko te mea kaita o tēnei, i te wā i takoto ai te kremea Ngati Porou i mua i te karauna, kārera wātu a te whānau apa nui i pātai mai heaha. Mutu tau ka tukuna mai te tautoko. Unconditional. Kia Ngati Porou e kōkiri nei i tātātou kreme, i uai i te tau 2014. Ko tae mai ki tēnei wā, ka tukuna atu kia Ray, kia kōrero e nei āhuatanga. Or wherever you want to. Okay.
As Selwyn said, Whānau Apanui's support for Ngati Porou during its own treaty settlement negotiations was conditional and went a long way towards our achieving what we did, particularly with our conservation provisions in the settlement. And now that Whānau Apanui getting close to ratifying their settlement deed, we've been active in not only supporting what they're doing in their settlement, but also supporting our joint work on the Raukumara, which the conservation provisions of their act covers and supports, but also as our neighbour and our tuakana and with our shared whakapapa, it's been easy to do and it's been the right thing to do. So Selwyn and I, as the remaining two negotiators from the original settlement negotiations team on the Runanganui, supported very fully capably by our lawyer, Runanganui lawyer, Tira Johnson. We're in some heavy negotiations, actually, with the Crown, alongside Whānau Apanui and in our own right. And eventually, with much delay, but after the House had risen, and in September, we were able all to come to an agreement that suited, firstly, Whānau Apanui, but secondly, actually enabled our settlement to be somewhat improved, which is kind of rare in an amendment to a settlement deed. But together, we've achieved, I think, a great outcome for both iwi, conservation, and particularly the Raukumara. So Apanui will move forward and go about ratifying a process of ratification of their deed, and when their deed is ratified, the amended deed to the Ngati Porou settlement, which Selwyn and I have signed will come into force as well. So we're all waiting for Apanui to get what we need, and we're sure they'll do the right thing and ratify.
He nui ngā mahi tahi I roto I te tau kua taha kene. E hari te mea whānau mai e tahi āhuatanga. Engari ngā kaupapa o muatu. Ka watu te tai rāwhiti e mahi tahi ana. Ki te mahi tahi te tai rāwhiti, ma wei tātou e whāwhātu. Aha kua heaha. Hoi anō, kua tū te toitu housing I roto I a tātou. A kei kone taku tuahine, tamahine a Annette, ko ia te kāpehu o tēnā kaupapa. Te mātotoru o ngā mahi, neke atu I te ruarau, ne, ngā whare. Ruarau ngā whare I roto I a tātou mai I Pōtikirua, ki kone ki te toka tai au, ki roto o teitanga mahaki, rongo whakaata, ngai tā manuhiri, me ngā uri auhenga palawa, te whakatohea, me o tātou tuākana o te whānau Apanui. Ko tēnā āhuatanga, kei te kōkiri tonu, kei te haere tonu, kia whai kāinga motuhake, ngā mea ka whai wāhi ki roto I te toitu housing. Ko te maru whakatipua, tērā āhuatanga anō I roto I te mātauranga. Kei kone I roto I te ripoata, mā koutou e pānui haere I ngā āhuatanga. Engari ko tērā anō, te tahi āhuatanga I pihuka mai he herengi, hei whakarauora I te āhuatanga o a tātou tamariki mokopuna, ko kore pirangi te haere te kura. Tuatahi. Engari, tērā āhuatanga, me te karahipi, mō ngā kaupapa, mō ngā tāngata e ngā kaunui te whakaako I roto I o tātou kura, I roto I te reo rangatira o tātou mātua, o tātou tīpuna. Koena te maru whakatipua. Nā, ko te rautipu rauora. Te rāhuatanga he rōpū tuitui I ngā iwi o te tai rāwhiti, me te kaunihera o Runanganui a Kiwa, me ngā kaipākihi o roto o te tai rāwhiti. Koera te kaupapa I paraungia e tātou I roto I ngā mahi a te COVID. Nā ngā iwi o te tai rāwhiti I kōkiri au a kaupapa, e hari te mea mō tātou, engari mō ngā Pākehā etahi o tātou e noho nei ki roto o tūranga. Ko ngā recovery programs, kei roto I tā tātou puka puka, e rā āhuatanga. And then the collective support for O2O, positioning Tai Rāwhiti as a tranche 1 in a just transition region. Now, koera e tahi kaupapa I roto I tērā o ngā kāwanatanga, e tae ei te pihuka mai he herengi mai te kāwanatanga te waha I ngā kaupapa o te Tai Rāwhiti. Kei te tārewa tonu e nei, mō tēnei wā. A rongo ake nei ko wai ngā minita kei roto I te kāwanatanga, I tēnei wā, ka kite atou e maunu e nei kaupapa I raro I a rātou. Aha koa nahinara. Hoi anō, tēnā tērā. I roto I tērā āhuatanga, mōheo koutou. He ngā wari te mahi tahi. Mehe mea kei te kai ngākau koe te mahi tahi te taha I tō hoa. E ua na te mahi tahi mena te tahi o e tahi o hoa kāre pirangi te mahi I tō taha. You know, we don't have to look way out. We can't work ourselves together. It's bloody hard trying to get some other people to work with you. But I want to mihi to Pene Brown, to Moira Brown, Pene Brown, Chairman of Teitanga Mahaki, Moira Brown, the Chairman of Rongo Whakaata, previous Chairman of Rongo Whakaata, Pauline Hill, the chairperson of Ngai Tāmanuhiri, and Awau Mo Tātou. Like I said, when the iwi of the Tairāwhiti are moving together, Mawei Tātou e whāwhātu. Au, ka hoki anō ki te rau kūmara. You know, me kororo ki te rau kūmara kātika. Kei te, are re. No te mea. Te rā āhuatanga. Kei kona tētahi wāhanga kaita o tātou. Tēnei taha me tērā taha. Depends which side you're on, which you're looking at and working from. But the whakapapa on that side and this side, no runga, no raro, kāre whakapapatia. Only thing is, and I listened to this again from some of our uncles, e he kāpanui. Pe he tai au te piki ko au te tuakana. Ka tai au ki runga ia taua maha ki me hauiti ka noho taina. Ka piki au ki runga ia te moe ngāri ki rāua ko te kauwhakatuakina, ka taina no au. Hoi anō. Ka mutu tēnā o ngā pāpā ana kōrero ka mea tu eia. E hara e nei te kōrero. Whakaalo au heka, well, hei kōrero ai. Hoi anō. Tērā huatanga mai rāno. And kei te piritahi, tātou, me o tātou tuakana. Mai taua wā ki tēnei wā. Rei, mahau e whakarā.
We're used to this double act. Got a couple of hours left to go. Yeah. Just to recap, the Raukumara Restoration Project is one of the biggest of its type anywhere. $34 million was received from the Crown to get it underway. It will take a lot more than that to actually get where we need to be. But we've made a good start. We've taken time to get the planning right, the people in the right places and the right people. Ngati Porou and the Runanganui are represented by myself and Tui Womanhoven from the board. And on the Apanui side, it's Rikirangi Gage and Ora Tukaki Barlow. And the Department of Conservation as the third party is represented by Michelle Hippolyte and Tamir Malcolm. Those may change over time, and we'll see how we change on our side. But the Raukumara is, well, it reflects our relationship with Whānau. It's a shared taonga. We share our whakapapa and history with Whānau, but the Raukumara, besides bringing us together, in a way separates us, at least geographically and physically, and we've found the need to have two teams to manage the project well. One, because it's such a big project, and two, because Whānau over there, and they do things on their side their way, Ngati Porou on this side, and we have a Ngati Porou team on this side doing things our way. Not too dissimilar to each other, but they work separately, but as a collective. And they've made good progress. These are some of the matters that have been highlighted. Everyone knows that 1080 toxin has been a thing. It's worked remarkably on the Whānau side. It hasn't been applied on the Ngati Porou side yet. It has been intended to be applied all year, but the rain has kept it away. In some respects, that's been useful. It's allowed our people to be more informed about what it is and what it isn't. We're still waiting for the weather window to apply that, and if we can get the same results on this side as we have on the Whānau side, the Raukumara will be well on its way to having a sound basis to grow and thrive again. Kia ora.
Koenei etahi o atatau tamariki, tungane, tuahine, karangatanga maha I roto I tēnei o ngā kaupapa. E heka. Ngati Porou oranga. Hoena, ko te hohonutanga o tēnā, mataku taina mā tō tātou CEO mā George e whakawhānui. Hoia no, whānau I purungia tēnei I roto nei, no te mea, koera tētahi o ngā kaupapa matua o te tau ko tahakene. Tēnei āhuatanga te hauora. Ka awatu tātou e whawhai ana anō mo te mana motuhake o te hauora ki roto i te tairawhiti. Haunga te tairawhiti engari kia tātou tonu. Ka hoki ngā mahala i te wā i wehe ai. Ka hoki rāno ki te Waiapu Hospital Board, then ka huri mai ki te they had iwi boards, then we moved into different forms of health. Well, we're now into iwi Māori partnership boards. And that's as a result of the change of the health system under the Labour government. Now, the National have been saying they're going to change this and change that, but tāria te wā, ka ki te anga pēhe ane. Hoi anō, we're right down the path on health reforms, and ko te ngako o te health reform ki roto i a tātou, the centre is whānau driven from our families. And when I say whānau driven, it mightn't be just the individual, but that whānau around those individuals. That's the centre of our kaupapa. And I do know that the new Minister of Health likes that approach. And while Ray was talking about conservation, we happened to spend some time with the new Minister of Conservation the day that he was appointed, and I think there's going to be some traction made in that arena, the Minister of Conservation. Mihi ana ki tō tātou hauora, me o tātou kaiarahi a hapu. I roto i ngā mahi a te COVID, i ngā mahi a Gabriel. Anoa nei, whitiki maranga, ka mahi a ngā mahi. Koe nei te āhuatanga o tā tātou tamaiti te aorere pēwhairangi, i haere hikoe haere ki te whenua, taura wātu ki o tātou rahi, ki ngā boundary riders kei potaka. Ka hala mai te iwi o te rataha ki te pōhiri tēnei taha. Taura wātu ki reira ka ki mai, heka, ko koe tēnā, ka metau tātou, nei te mahi. Ara, kei te ki te atu. Tēni poihipi, me rāhuatanga. Toitu Ngati Porou. Well, ka waiho e nei kōrero mā taku tuakana mā Patrick e kōrero. Koe e te tiamana o Toitu. Hoi anō, e nei āhuatanga e whakarāpopoto nei I roto I taku ripoata, mana e rahi ake te wā e kōrero e eia. Next. Kaitiaki. O tēnei āhuatanga, o tātou taku taimoana trust. Tēnā āhuatanga e hara I raro I te runanga. Engari, I purungi au I roto I tēnei ripoata, kia mōhio te katoa o Ngati Porou kei te mahia o tātou trusts I ngā āhuatanga o tātou taku taimoana. Nā, me he mea kare koutou e mōhio he hanga mahi o koutou trust, me whakapātu ki o koutou neighbours I roto I o koutou kāinga. They're all there. We have 6 trusts throughout our rohe as a result of the ngā rohe moana, o ngā rohe o ngā hapu. Ngā rohe moana o ngā hapu o Ngati Porou Act. Hapu-based, iwi supported, and the mana motuhake goes back to the hapu. So, got to work and talk with each other. Te mana o te wai.
Anyone wants to know about it, please come and see me. Kia ora.
Oh, they must, Dag. Te mana o te wai, kua koera no te tahi āhuatanga I roto I ngā mahi whakahuri I te RMA, the FMA, the BMA, all those things. FA sometimes. But we managed to work with our relations in Tākitimu. Ngā iwi katoa o Ngāti Kahungunu, me o tātou rahi o Runanganui a Kiwa, me tātou o Ngati Porou. Te whakatū I tētahi entity, horauta, Tākitimu. Well, you all know, ka piki koe ki runga o horauta, ka Tākitimu koe. Ka piki ki runga ia Tākitimu, ka horauta koe. You know, e tahi taima, e anō anei, tātou. E ingoa nei, te whare kai ki roto o te marae o Taihoa, tātou. Koe nei te tātou. And then Tranche 1 regional planning again, I referred to that in an earlier pehiat. Well, tēnei, te whakatipu rawa, te mōmonatanga o enei kōro ka tuku kia Robert, māne e whakarāpopoto. Koe anō, koe nei e tahi āhuatanga mai I te Ngāti growth. Now, I mua, tō tātou karangatanga ko Ngati Porou Holdings. Koe anō, ko tini te ingoa ki tēnei. Mōheo katoa te ao ko wai te Ngāti. Even though some of them might think they don't know, but Ngāti. And the growth mo te whakatipu ia tātou tonu. And ara ngā whaenga e wha, hoi anō kea Robert Waha o era. Rangatira. E tū rangatira I tātou. Again, kei te hoki ia anō awau, aho tū au a kukoro, ingari, te whaia I te mana motuhake o Ngati Porou, mō Ngati Porou. Ngati Porou kei te whenua, Ngati Porou kei te ao, and especially Ngati Porou kei te kāinga. And tō tātou runanga, aha ko pēhea, ko era tāna mahi, I te mahi, era āhuatanga mō tātou. Oh, kei te pai a kōrura about that. Yeah. Okay. Anei e tahi o ngā highlights in the last 36 years that I've had the privilege of representing this rohe and Ngati Porou as a trustee, as the deputy chairman, and recently as the chairman of Te Runanganui o Ngati Porou. And ara, inaugural elected Trump trustee back in 1987. Te ara kāinga report, which is coming into fruition now. But I remember Uncle Lapi sort of asking a question to the social welfare and saying to them, I'll bring a bus to Gisborne and we'll put all those kids in there on that bus and we'll take them home. Well, Te ara kāinga was the basis of all that, and we're now with Oranga Tamariki and we're working into that arena. So that was that. The purchase of Pākiroa, Puanga and Makarika. And why I say purchase, Ngati Porou, we bought Hikurangi back. It was not given back by the Crown. We bought it. The millennium celebrations and establishment of the Maui Whakairoa and Hikurangi. That is probably the only one of the few kaupapa that still represents the year 2000 now in this country. Other things had a nice function, but we decided to return Maui's family on the shoulder of Hikurangi. Ka watu tātou e mahi ana I ngā housing, ngā hauora, ngā education, and our social things in the Runanga. And we're building up to that again. Mana motuhake. The vesting of the legal title of Hikurangi Maunga to Trump on behalf of Ngati Porou. Well, Pakihiroa and the mountain is probably one of the only places in New Zealand that's got a shareholder base of over 100,000 people. And so every Ngati Porou born into this world has a tūranga waiwai on the mountain. E mau nei te kōrero, ko hikurangi te maunga, e kore e neke neke, ka tūtonu, mai te pō i te ao, he uhu tō mai no te pō. Well, the game is the name, the game is the fame in the name. Is that right, Bailey? The game is the fame in the name. And during this time, we managed to talk with the hierarchy of the East Coast Rugby Union, and I think Sid Clark was the CEO at that time. And we said to him, what about if the Runanga sponsored the Ngati Porou East Coast and we put Ngati Porou on the jerseys? How much would it cost? And Sid Clark gave us a figure, and we said, sign over here. And as you know, well, it was small there, but we still continued, and we're still doing that now. And our rugby team has done very well, very well. The calendar of events, the dawn ceremony on Hikurangi, our power wheels, we started off with about 30 people and ended up last year with about 7,000. And still climbing, because this the kaupapa Ngātis want to be at. The hui taurima, te mahi haka I roto ia tātou. We love nothing better than competing against each other. At home. But I know when we go out, we're quite happy to work together. And when we do, we do quite well. But at home, Kokai likes to play against Te Ahi a Te Atua. Whetu Matarau likes to play against Pātangata. Titirangi likes to play against Titirangi. You can work out how that happens, but how wonderful, actually. It's lovely. The tāpirana, Matariki at Otiki. 1999, before everybody was getting Matariki, what you call it? Conscious. Anyway, and then the lectures, and then the Ngati Porou Pakeke Day, which we probably need to be reinstituting. Then our Whaiatiti Kahurangi e Tipuerea, Rangi Tāwaia festivals. A lot of you will remember those, when one of our kids was looking for their Ngati and they were taking their bag through the mountain, and they found it there on the mountain. The Y262, which is, again, intellectual property, flora and fauna, that's still going. Our Treaty of Waitangi Fisheries Settlement, the Ngati Porou Claim Settlement Act, the establishment of Ngati Porou Holdings, now Ngati Porou Growth, and Toitu Ngati Porou, our real strategy, and our Rohe Moana Act, our COVID response, and our recovery. Now I just got a message that we need to move along. Not only me, but all of us, because Tāwhiri Mātea is moving in towards the south. Okay, koe rā ngā āhuatanga o te balance sheet, a whakaro, anei, a moni. You can look at that in your book, but yeah. We started off in 2003 with a 7.7 million, and our graph has just been going up, and hopefully in the future it'll keep going that way. Okay? So I want to pay a tribute to all our people that have helped to raise whakatipu rawa mo Ngati Porou. Thank you. And anei te whakarapupoto.
He honore he kroria ki te atua, he maungarongo ki te whenua, he whakaro pai ki ngā tāngata katoa. Ngati Porou kei te whenua, Ngati Porou kei te ao. O tira koutou e pupuri nei i te mauri o ngā taura here. Nei rā te mihi a te wākainga. Mai pōti ki rua ki te toka a tai au. Ngā kārangaranga hatu, ngā kārangaranga whānau. O tira te ahi kā. Kia koutou, mō koutou whakaro nui, i muri mai i te āwha Gabriel. E kore e mutu ngā mihi, kia koutou, ki o tātou hunaonga, ki o tātou taukete, ki o tātou hoa i roto i ngā tau. A piuta, a kai, a taonga hoki. Koe rā ahuatanga i tukuna ki o tātou marae puta no i te rohe. Ki o tātou kaipākihi, Ngati Porou mai, ārea mai. Ki o tātou tāngata i tau ki roto i te pōharu o te āwha. I whai wāhi ki te hono ia mātau i te rohe. I tukuna tētahi wāhanga kaita i te āwhina i o tātou poraka whenua. I tāuhi ki te paru i e rāhuatanga katoa o te āwha. Nā reire kore mutu, ngā mihi kia koutou, e hika maha.
And videos like that have gone to every iwi that koha us, gone to Willie Apiata, and to the businesses that made koha to us, to us. And those of you that read the Gisborne Herald last night, there was a thank you page in there. And if you want to read the New Zealand Herald tonight, there's a thank you page to all those people in things. So that's my report for this year. Tēnā koutou, kia ora tātou katoa.
Kia ora rā. Kia ora, Papa Bau. I just want to acknowledge the kōrero earlier about the nanny, and I did see yesterday 2 of my siblings on the wall behind us, so we mai rā. Kia ora everybody, welcome to the hui. As the chairman has said, too much, so I'll keep mine brief. Thankfully, our chairman covers most of the stuff, and I'll just highlight a couple of things on the way. I won't take too long over it either. Year in review, well, we're still seeing the year in review. It's still falling outside. So, kei te pai. If you want to read all of the notes, they'll be online somewhere. Ka pai? I'm going to cut through the quick. Tātarai Maruana, the biggest thing probably in recent time is Ngati Porou Oranga, the launch of Ngati Porou Oranga. What is it? It's a physical and structural change within our organisation. It's bringing our hauora, whānau horauta whānau ora, and our housing all under one umbrella. So it's got its own entity that looks after all of those things. The other big thing is, since I've been here for the last couple of years, what we lacked, I think, was probably the capacity to do ourselves justice. A lot about our mana. I'm an accountant, so the only way I know how to do that is to make us money. So I'm chasing contracts everywhere. We've gone from 17 million a couple of years ago to about 36 million last year. So, and out of that, about 20
25 odd million of it goes into salaries for our communities. So, kia ora. Ooh, didn't roll, come on. Right, can you, yep. Structurally, there's our hauora, housing and whanawuranga. Right, next one. Key updates. Acknowledge Rose, who was at our hauora for many years, kept the doors open, the lights on. I'm going to say in difficult circumstances. So, no money available for them. So, mihi to Rose and them. Got Sonia and Kitty. I'd get them to stand up, but I don't think they're in the... Oh, they're outside. There are two. So, Sonia's our new medical director and Kitty Bird's our director of health. Kia ora. Our Puhi Kaiti clinic been relocated on site at Te Tini o Porou. So staff are really happy there. It's, yeah, we're getting under one roof as well, not just under one cape, but under one roof. Ka pai? Yeah, ka pai. Next one. I'm going to bore you with all the details, but I won't. This is on page, I think, 53 in the book. So you can take it home, and if you've got any questions, you first can ring Sonia. Don't ring me, all right? She's got it covered. Housing. The potama there, that's on page 55. And the key thing I just want to highlight is we've actually managed to pick some funding up from government around the homelessness, which is at the bottom of the potama there. We'll kick off shortly in the new year, but we've come from almost nowhere. I think when I arrived, we had about 10 whare in our portfolio. I haven't even added all of these up, but we're moving there, and there's a lot more to go. Ka pai? Still working on it. Ka pai. Next one, thanks. Whanau yep. They're doing really well, all right? Kei te pai. Next slide. Our numbers are rolling nicely. These are our whānau that we're working in our communities. Yeah. Kei te pai. This is in the book too. One of the critical things I think is important is our accountability for the funding that we got during the recovery. And this slide here identifies sort of the key things that we achieved during that time. Sorry, is this the right slide? Oh yeah, emergency and response. This is also in the book, so you'll be able to read it up. I'm not going to go through it. But two marae were severely damaged, and then lots of other things happened. Next, yep. 30 Starlinks, 107 kaimahi, lots of work going on. Our staff hit the ground, but a lot of our community hit the ground too. So while that measures that, the other part of it is our community did the lion's share of all of the work in our community out there. Ka pai. Next one. This is our summary of money in, money out. Top end, our chairman's already highlighted the key numbers there. Koha received some grants, but even Toitū got some money on the side. I'm sort of focusing on the numbers there. That's in the book. Fundamentally, you can see where we've invested. Oh, sorry, roll back one. Where we've invested it. It is important to know where we have spent it, because a lot of these entities that gave us money, a lot of our whānau, they're $10, they're $50. We need to be able to account for all of that. And this is what's in there in our annual report. Ka pai? Kia ora. Yep, now you can roll to the next one. Porota whānau water, flood and cyclone, and these are the things that our whānau water team have been working on across the community, supporting them, some kaipaks, the whole 9 yards. That is my report. But I have a couple of other quick things I want to cover off as well while I'm here, with your indulgence, Mr. Chairman. This is out of sequence, but the strategic plan update. it is fairly straightforward. Here's our strategic plan in a picture. All of our pou that sit under there. Basically, it's about our te mana o Ngati Porou. This year, the new board, there's on the agenda is for us to review it, but currently this is the strategic plan that we're working to. Beyond that, I think I'm done. Kia ora, everybody. Thank you.
A mo ngā mea o koutou ko rongo i aku ripota i ngā tau ko pahurea kene, ka mōheo koutou he potono te kakau o taku paipa. Kei roto tonu te matatorutanga, te hohonutanga o ngā kōrero i a tātou pukapuka. Mena kāre koe mōheo ki te pānui, mā toi tu e tuku he pūtea ki a koe, ki a haere ki te kura te ako te pānui. Nā, i te timatanga o tēnei tau, ko te tino hia o te pōri kia huri haere ki ngā rohe katoa o roto o Ngati Porou. Kia rongoa ke mātou o koutou hia, ngā mea e hia tiana e koutou te kite. Engari, nā te raru o ngā rori, tata tono te mea ki ngā rori, te kaha o ngā rori. Nā te raru o ngā rori, kāri pēra. Engari, i tai mātou ki roto o kawakawa mai tawhiti. I reira ka puta i a rātou te kōrero mō te rangi tāwaia, nei kōrero me e Sir Selwyn ki a tātou. Kia whakahoki a mai te Ngati Awards. O tēnā mahi he kaupapa hangarau i roto i ngā kura. Ka hopu kina ngā kōrero, te reo ngā hitori o Ngati Porou i runga i ngā momo technology o nāne, CDs o e nā mea. Ka mutu, ka hui anō mātou ki roto te riu o Waiapu. Wā, he rereke anō tēnā. Kare tēnā māpu i noho i runga i te kaupapa i whakaritea mo te hui. Ka kotiti ke ngā kōrero. Push for, yeah. Koina. I runga i te karanga a te taurahere o Akarana, ka tai atu te puari toitu ki reira, ki Akarana, ki te heha rātou mai kei reira. Nā, ko tō rātou kai ako, no tiki tonu. Ko tōna tipuna ko Helen Johnson, ko ngā mātua o Helen Johnson, ko skui wāno rao ko kui kururangi. Nā, ka tai mātou ki reira, ka tū rātou ki te waiata, a rātou waiata katoa, no te kāinga tunu ne. Ka mutu, ka hākari, ka mutu tēnā, ka tomatu mātou ki roto i tō rātou rūma kai ako. Tā rātou wāhi hui he kura, tētahi o ngā kura kai Akarana. Ka tomatu mātou ki roto i te rūma. Ko tā rātou kaupapa o taua rā, ko te kūmara. Ka kōrero mo te tainga mai o te kūmara, ko etahi o tātou kai te moheo mo rua kapanga, etahi horauta. Ka puta te pātai i ahu mai te kūmara ki hea. Ka me tētahi o rātou no pack and save. Kai tā ho tikatope tēnā kōrero i nērā. Ka mutu ka tū māua ko Ngārimu ki te tāpiri atu etahi kōrero hei kinaki atu. He anō etahi. Matariki, i tēnei tau i tukunatu he pūtea, rima mano te wāriu, i tukunatu ki tēnā rohe, ngā me e whakahaere tiana he rā whakanui i te matariki. E toru rawa ngā rōpū o Matakawa i whakanuia te matariki. Nā reira, i whakawehengia taua rima mano i Wainganui i aua rōpū e toru. Mehe mea ko tahi anake te rōpū i roto i tō rohe, ka whiwhi te rima mano katoa. Taku mōheo nei, ka haere tonu tēnā kaupapa a te tau e heke mai nei. Heka, he anō e tahi kōrero. Kare nui rawa ngā hui o Toitu, o te puari i te timatanga o tēnei tau, engari i haere tonu ngā pūtea hei tautoko i ngā kaupapa e whakahaere tia i Ngati Porou. Nā te pai o ngā mahi a George, and me mihi anō hoki ki a Leanne Morris Manuel, he rawe tēnā wahine ki tana mahi. Ka re nui rawa ngā whakāhua o toitu nā te mea, ka busy mātou, ka re whai taima ki te tuka, ki te tango whakāhua. Ka mihi au kia Rhonda Tipu, ko ia te GM hau mo toitu. Welcome, Rhonda. Toitu is a very loving board. Ki tonu I te aroha. E tai taima, kaharawa te aroha ahua maroke e te heo ngā hui. No reira, ka mutu tunu aku kōrero ki kone, mehe pātai wā koutou, don't ring me, ring Agnes. Kia ora tātou.
Okay, our next presenter is Chairman of Ngati Growth, Sir Robert McLeod. Kia ora.
Kia ora tātou. It's great to be here with you this morning, despite the weather. As my prior speakers have emphasised, I'll attempt to be as brief as I can, but hopefully informative at the same time. I will be going through some numbers, and so hopefully it won't put you to sleep. Hopefully quite the opposite. So if we just start with the first slide here, I thought I'd just remind us of the group structure that we operate under. The Runanga, as you know, is sitting on the top here, and it's the 100% owner of what is now known as Ngati Growth. As the chairman said, there's been a recent name change from Ngati Porou Holding Corporation or Company to Ngati Growth Limited. So I'm sure you'll all agree that that's a more exciting name than Ngati Porou Holding Company. But we are a 100% owned subsidiary of the Runanga, and we own a bunch of entities as Ngati Growth Limited, which are listed here below it. And so when you're looking at the financials, and when we're talking about the financials, I think a key thing just to remember is that we segment the total organisation into components, and the component that I chair is the Ngati Growth Group, which is not the same thing as the total balance sheet. So you'll see in the slides here, for example, we have about $260 million worth of assets under management, whereas the total organisation counts to about 300 million of total assets under management. So in a simple sense, it's just that we're talking about a segment here, even though this is the major segment commercially of the organisation. In a sense, I like to think of ourselves as the engine in the car, and or the engine under the bonnet. Our major purpose essentially is to provide income to the total organisation, to allow the total organisation to pursue its social objectives. So just going through them very quickly, we've got two fishing companies here. You'd kind of think, why not one? Certainly I would think, why not one rather than having more? And the reason essentially is the fisheries settlement requires a separate entity to own quota and to have received settlement assets under the Treaty of Waitangi Fisheries settlement legislation. So this is essentially our quota owner, Ngati Porou Seafoods Limited, whereas the fisheries company has our other operating processing assets. Our AFL shares for Aotearoa Fisheries Limited sits in Seafoods Limited, for example. Pakihiroa Farms, which will be well known to you, is our farming business. We have Tohe Taka, which is our honey business. Hauiti Berries, the joint venture with Hauiti in terms of blueberries. Subsidiary here, this Ahi Mokopuna Limited is the owner of Akaroa Salmon, which is an investment in the South Island, a very good investment. We own 36% of that as a co-investment with others. And then the Real Fresh box down here has essentially been the retail arm historically of the fisheries business. So we spread those businesses across those three boxes. Bear in mind also, Ngati Growth Limited owns the major part of the balance sheet directly. Those are the funds under management, which count to about $150 million worth, which is the substantial percentage of the total assets of not only Ngati Growth Limited, but also the Runanga. It also owns the forestry assets directly. So you've just got to appreciate that some are in specialised subsidiaries, some of our assets, some are collectively sitting in the parent, as I call it, which is Ngati Growth for this purpose. We come to the next slide. We've already mentioned the name change, but this is just a rather simple emphasis of where we're travelling as a commercial group, which essentially is to grow our assets. The name of the game, essentially, in the long run, our purpose is to pay dividends. And essentially that role and responsibility is to maximise those dividends over time. That's a rather simple way of boiling down financially what Ngati Growth is all about. Ultimately, from birth to death, or from Garden of Eden to Armageddon, whatever metaphor takes your fancy, the role of Ngati Growth is ultimately to provide dividends to the shareholder, and essentially the only issue in that regard is the timing of those dividends, which is not an unimportant matter, not only from the point of view of actually having access to resources for social purposes, but also in the way in which we maximise those dividends. Because essentially we have to make trade-offs between paying less now as a trade-off for paying more in the future if we choose to invest wisely. A rather simple notion, but quite a challenging one to achieve in practice. So we'll just come now to the next slide. Just a little bit more on what we do. This slide again shows us makes the point that on the right-hand side, well, perhaps if I start here on the left-hand side, we are the commercial arm of Ngati Porou, essentially the engine metaphor that I've mentioned. Our goal is to grow our assets, grow our balance sheet effectively by way of more local investment, and obviously to maximise the dividends to our shareholders, including Toitū. We have an annual commitment, which is up $1 million from last year, of $6 million by way of a dividend for social and cultural development. So that's part of the dividend program at the moment. As I say, over time the goal essentially is to maximise that amount of distribution. On the right-hand side you can see there the total assets is 260 million. We've got about 10 million approximately of debt, which means the net assets, in other words the equity, is around 250 million. That's $250 million. It's the same number, which is good. But we obviously over time are seeking to grow that and maximise that even further. So perhaps if we just go to the next slide, please. If we have a look at the performance that's under review, remember we're sort of reviewing from 1 July of last year to 30 June gone in 2023. That's the annual event, and I'm pleased to say that we reported a profit over that period of 8.5 million. You might recall that I was at this podium last year explaining that we had a loss of a similar sum to the 30th of June 2022, largely coming from the financial investment assets, the 150 million, which is you might recall I explained in some detail some of the complexity of how that asset was performing and how we have to account for it. It's what we broadly account for that asset as according to what accountants call mark to market, right? So in other words, at balance date we value those assets at the market value. The analogy is if you think about your own house, the valuation is not what you paid for it as a matter of historical cost. The value is what you could get for it if you try to sell it at that date. And in a rising interest rate market, you get a paradoxical effect that as interest rates rise, then bond assets that carry the old interest rates are falling in value because those old interest rates are lower than the more recent and current interest rates. So it's a paradox in the sense that as the interest rate is rising, the value of the economic value of the assets that were carrying the old interest rates is falling. See, and that was essentially the essence of the $8.4 million loss, the mark-to-market loss. I'm pleased to say we've effectively turned that around. That's a basic, you have to add those two numbers together to get the difference between the two in terms of improvement. There's a $17 million improvement between the comparison of the loss and the profit. that's a good news story, but it does reflect the fact that this asset is what we call volatile. In other words, it fluctuates in accordance with market conditions, and market conditions with financial assets, even now, is volatile. So volatility is not your friend, it's your enemy in investment, and we are interested in trying to smooth or mitigate that volatility, and that's what we continue to try and do through essentially the way we allocate the assets. Okay, we've got Greg Peacock sitting over here. We can blame him in the times, like I did last year, in the times that these don't perform, but we'll take the praise in those times when they do perform. But anyway, Greg is representing my fiduciary who joins us here again this year. The financial investments produced 13.2 million of profit. There's just a few highlights there in terms of the asset allocation that's going on. We've divested fixed coupon assets. We actually made a very good decision to get out of these old bonds carrying these old lower interest rates. So we did, despite the loss, we managed actually to transform ourselves away from those bonds a lot faster than other managers. And when you say, well, how do I know? Well, we can get a feel for that by comparing ourselves to the index of other fund managers that are doing the same thing as us. And so that was very good, and I think our timing decision to jump out of particularly the Fisher funds bond assets was very, very good. We're continuing to invest further in growth assets. We didn't lose our nerve and sell off our equities when the share market started to fall, and fortunately it's recovered quickly. So at the time, I recall there was a bit of conversation about, well, should we be sitting on these equities? Well, actually, it turned out, with the benefit of hindsight, that actually the course that we took, which was to await recovery, was the right one. We've also been building our portfolio of inflation-protected assets in terms of the particular categories that we're pursuing. The seafood part of our business had a strong year, $2.8 million profit. And that was despite a write-down, an impairment in Ahia of $700,000. We did also impair our blueberry investments. You might recall me being here last year telling you about some of the challenges that we've had with the Hoeti berry farm, which continues, but I'll touch on a little bit in a moment, that is turning around, I think, quite strongly. And the 2024 focus is one of continuing to fix up some of the problem investments that we do have in our existing businesses, and I'm pleased to say that we are travelling in a very positive direction in that regard. So if we come to the next slide, please. That total asset number of 260 million really is about a 3.3 million increase on the same number last year. The difference between that 3.3 million and the reported profit essentially is the dividend. Okay, there's not much movement in the debt level of the balance sheet, so that's where the differences lie. We've invested in property, so we've been reallocating our assets. That reallocation of the assets is marked diagrammatically on the right in those pie charts. Effectively, there's not a hell of a lot of change there. You see, for example, the bulk allocation are the financial investments, which have gone from 60 to 58, so a small reduction in those and a 1 and 2% move in other categories. So there's not been a major change in terms of those, but over time we are seeking to shrink the green and move more into direct investing. In other words, move over time and at a selective timing to move out of our financial assets, reduce those and go to longer term direct investment assets which have a higher prospect of capital gain and capital growth, as well as achieving less volatility through the switch. If we come to the next next slide. This is the Mānuka, the honey business. This has been probably the most challenging business in the year that we've just been through. Many of you might know that Ngati, for example, took a very heavy hit on impairing their honey assets, many millions. The honey business has struggled in the last 12 months. Comvita, which is the public company that sort of specialises in this area, have also found it very challenging. It's been the worst season in 20 years. We've built up quite a bit of inventory through this period, so we have a strategy to keep ourselves in a better state than the average performer in this market, which I believe that we have. Our Toi Tucker plant extraction facility has a lot of interest from Comvita, who we're working very closely with to improve the productivity of that facility, and we also have very positive emerging prospects in our customer channels, particularly overseas into Japan and with other wholesale customers. So I think the outlook is good. It's still a challenging environment, but I think that we're definitely moving in a positive direction, and it's most unlikely that we'll have a repeat set of challenges at the same magnitude as we've had in the close to June of last year. If we come on to the next slide, please, Ngati Porou Seafoods, where we had a profit of 2.8 million for the year. We've had quota licensing continue with the iwi collective, which has been great. The Akaroa salmon business has been excellent, a 49% return on investment in that particular asset is an astounding rate of return. So I think we can be very positive about where that is going. We also continued the seafood koha program to iwi. Events, $34,000 worth of value, if you like, has been distributed through that channel, if I can call it that. The Real Fresh store also, in terms of retail, has obviously had some significant challenges at a $300,000 loss. 2024 focus, where are we going here? We're looking at new food offerings, and we're also looking at the acquisition of synergistic businesses, Captain Morgan's being the most recent, also with a tailwind assistance from grant funding. We effectively acquire that asset at a very substantial economic discount to market prices, so that's a very good achievement. Pakihiroa Farms, next slide. Weather events, of course, have dominated the story here. A $600,000 loss. Livestock farming, for those of you that are in the business will know it's under strain. Livestock prices are not great at the moment. They're volatile. Again, we have every reason to think that we would have an improved year to look forward to the 30th of June 24. So that continues, and it's an important asset. It's a taonga asset, as you know, and quite important to get right. The focus of 24 also on carbon opportunities and erosion mitigation is highlighted there, and also retirement from flood-prone areas in terms of where we're focusing our farming activity. Come to the forestry sector on the next slide. You can see here $1 million profit, which I think is a good result in the circumstances, again with weather events that we've experienced there. We have 24,000 hectares of land in Ruatoria, Tukamaru and Te Araroa as part of the settlement receipt, and we record income, of course, as the value of the forest grows. We've had 6,800 hectares of forestry returned to us after harvesting. It comes back to us for replanting after harvesters have essentially taken the trees off. That's Summit particularly. And we've planted an additional 4,500 hectares in pine in that 12-month period from that handed back real estate. I've mentioned the climate, and again, carbon opportunities continue. The change in government will hopefully give us a little bit more certainty about where the carbon market is going. That's been extremely susceptible to government policy, and we've of course had a reasonable amount of white water in terms of where the new government or a new government might take carbon policy. Haiti berries is the next slide. We did again report a loss here. $400,000 of loss, though, is a lot less than what was contemplated. So I think that the team has to be congratulated for the work and the effort that's gone on here. As you know, this is a joint venture with Haiti, It hasn't achieved expectations for both parties through the period, but I think that with the focus on efficiencies and also renegotiating our arrangements with Hauiti, which is sort of in train. Appreciate that this is a public forum here and I'll be on the internet with these remarks, so I need to be reasonably cautious with them, not so much with Hauiti and internal stakeholders, but other stakeholders such as Berryco and so on, the kind of Zespri equivalents that we have to operate through, and the nature of those contracts which require ongoing investigation and negotiation, in my opinion, are somewhat commercially sensitive matters. So I won't go into any full detail on that. All I will say is that we've come a long way, I believe, in terms of the improvement of this business, which is a kind of a turnaround. We've had weather damage at the tunnels, not so much from Gabriel, interestingly, but the subsequent storms, given the direction of the winds in Tolaga Bay with those particular storms, have actually hit the bullseye from the point of view of doing damage to some of our tunnels. We've got good outlook in terms of plant variety, and as I say, picking productivity is great, and it's also worth noting 40 to 60 jobs, and the employment prospects there, are added benefits of this activity, as we all know, one of the reasons why we went into it. That are also worth noting. The year ahead, our goal is to enhance our local operations, build capability, capacity, systems and processes, drive operational efficiencies, and get more of our product sold in these businesses such as honey and berries. On the asset allocation side, we'll continue to work on diversification, having regard to not only local weather events but also financial markets, which are in a state of significant flux. While inflation remains as high in the world, let alone New Zealand as it is, those financial markets are going to remain in flux. So I don't think that that's ending anytime soon. Our aspirations in the longer term, as I say, is to grow that balance sheet and expand those dividend prospects. Larger iwi, the sort of the plus $1 billion iwi that make up those in Aotearoa, they effectively, there are quite a number of them now, over $1 billion of total assets that are circulating or distributing $20 to $30 million of annual dividends. So it kind of does make it different, and I think it's an aspiration for us. Ultimately, it's not about the money, but it is about what the money can acquire and buy. Okay. We're also very excited about the high impact local investments that we're investigating. Captain Morgan's is now an achieved and concluded deal. We are also looking at retail opportunities on the coast here in Tairāwhiti. We have, for example, spoken to Foodstuffs about their stores, some of which have been recently on the market and some are coming onto the market. The regulator through the central government essentially, of course, is obliging Foodstuffs to open up their supply chains to competitors in order to mitigate the kind of grocery prices that the electorate has been complaining about, and I think that does play to our opportunities and is worth noting. So we are very excited about that. That will give, I think, not only an expanded branding opportunity to Ngati growth and the Runanga, but I think it will also resonate with Ngati Porou constituents in terms of just practically providing on-the-ground benefits to them. Can I just close my remarks in acknowledging a few people? First of all, as the chairman has said, we have a new chief executive who now has been in situ since the ASM of last year. That's Henare Walker, who took over from Shane Walker. And it is a baton that's been passed, and I think, despite Henare's size, he's pretty sprinty on the running track of running a very successful business. And we're very pleased as a board very pleased with Henare's progress and achievements in the role as he constructs a new team and works with us on a revised strategy. We also can also just acknowledge my fellow board members, Dean Moana, who's here as the deputy chair. We also, of course, lost one of our number, which was 6 in Henare, and moving from director to chief executive, he came off the board. So we are at 5, and we're still at 5. So I should also acknowledge Diana Pukitapu and Bailey, who's here, and Diana Morris. We also, Bobby Morris, not Diana Morris, Bobby Morris. Can I also acknowledge Ngati Porou, who was an alternate director, who actually has just recently retired from that position. So thank you to my colleague board members for a lot of hard work in the year that's gone. And last but not least, the staff of Ngati Growth Limited deserve a special mention. They've been working hard and they've produced what overall I think has been a strong result for the year given the challenges that we have had. So thank you very much for listening to my presentation, and hopefully that's been informative. Thank you.
We'll move on to the consolidated financials, and I'll pass it over to Leonard.
Kia ora whanau.
Can I just think? Roto Tahe is closed. Don't need to panic. We'll just go through our kaupapa and have our hakari, enjoy each other's company, and maybe it's open by then. Otherwise, we'll just put the chairs down, put the beds down, and you're welcome to sleep here. Or goes north. Sorry, Leonard.
Kia ora. All right, we'll make a start. Ko te mihi tuatahi ki te hunga mate, no reira e nā mate, haere atu, hoki atu, whakaoti atu rā, rātou kia rātou, tātou kia tātou. Ko tēnei te mihi atu, kia koto e aku rangatira, e huitahi nei I tēnei rangi, no reira tēnā koto, tēnā tātou katoa. Ko wai rā tēnei. Ko lio wari toku ingoa, I whānau mai au ki whiti, ko aho te CFO o te Runanganui o Ngati Porou, no reira tēnā koto, tēnā tātou katoa. Now, for the past 2 years, I've been an apology to these meetings, and it's purely because our whānau have welcomed 2 baby boys over that period. And it just so happens that they decide to pop out exactly on Huiato date. I very quickly realized that having babies is not the answer to dodging one of these AGMs. So here you have me. Now, before I proceed, I'd quickly like to acknowledge the presence of the PwC external auditor, Mr. John Dixon. John, would you mind just... Yeah, so John's the external auditor, and he's basically the guy that signs off on the financial report, which is the more interesting looking document with lots of numbers and graphs and tables. So he basically signs off saying that whatever we have done is true and accurate, and also is here to keep a check on what I say is the truth and nothing but the truth. Right, so let's jump straight into it. In terms of, on the back of Sir Rob's detailed financial piece, I won't go into too much detail, but just hover around the key numbers. As he mentioned, Ngati Growth is a subsidiary of the entire group, so these numbers are at a level which is at the parent level, which incorporates the subsidiary, also has Toitu Ngati Porou and Ngati Porou Oranga in that. So that's why these numbers might not tie exactly with what he's presented, but it's at a group level. Now, it's been a good year, generally speaking. If you run your eyes across that summarized table, you see that on the income fund, we've gone up in almost all line items of income, so which is a positive, and I think that's attributable to the hard work that the different boards and the different management teams have put in. But in terms of pinning it down to 2 key indicators, the 2 key ones that I'd like to highlight is the service delivery income. So quite a lot of effort during the year has gone into trying to gather more contract-related income. That's why you'll see that jump from 28 to 36 million. The other turnaround is the realized and unrealized gains. So just because a large component of our financial base is in managed funds, any changes in the financial markets has a really big impact on the total income. But overall, it's been a good year for the Runanga. As you can see, the total income line. Now, note that this is before any expenses. We went up from 32 million to 66 million, which is a positive note to go in it. In terms of the expenses, now with the growth in revenue, as expected, you'll have a bigger asset base. Now, what happens there, you'll need more employees. We've grown from something like 300 to 348 FTEs over the period. So all that and hiring of contractors to meet the contractual obligations of the funders, that sort of contributes towards an increase in expenses. The key takeaway here is that your income should, or in general terms, should grow at a faster rate than your expenses, which is the case here. So all up, I won't go into too much detail because there's a voice inside me saying the sky's getting cold and the road's getting close. But
you need to go into the detail because you might have some questions that you have to ask.
But at the bottom, so that's the net profit number. So income minus your expenses, basically what we spent has resulted in a net profit of 6.3 million. Last year didn't look too good, but good to say that we're on the other side of the mountain. Next slide, please. Now this is just a very summarized version of the balance sheet. There's two sides of the equation here as well. Your current assets is basically the things that we own, and the liabilities is things that we owe to others. You can see that the total assets have gone up by about 17 odd million, with your total liabilities up by a lesser number than that. So all up, your net assets, which is the remaining number, has gone up, which is positive. And that slide at the bottom, or that graph at the bottom, is just a breakdown of where most of the total assets are invested in. Kapai? Next slide, please. Now, this statement of cash flows, the accounting model is such that you have cash transactions and accrual transactions. What this statement tries to do is strip out all those non-cash items and just give you an idea of what the actual cash income and outcomes was. It's categorized into three activities, which is your key categories of cash flow. But all up, you will see positive movements across each category. And we ended up with a strong cash balance of 21 million at year end. Next slide. Now, this slide speaks to itself, all on the up, but like I mentioned, the key thing is your expenses needs to increase at a lower rate compared to your revenue, which is the case this year. So all up, it's been a positive year, and I'm glad that I'm having to present this to you all. And that's me. I look for some guidance to you, Mr. Chair, to move the motion.
Okay. That the motion is that the presentation of the audited consolidated financial statements for the Ngati Porou Group for the 2022-23 income year as presented be adopted by the 2023 AGM. Is there a mover? Yes. J. Ngarimu, seconder. Maraika Womanhoven. Any discussion? All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, carried. Thank you. Hang on, I just got one. Oh, the appointment of the external auditor for 2023, the financial year. Can you move to the next one? We are recommending that PwC be appointed as external auditors for the Ngati Porou Group for the 23-24 financial year, income year. Is there a mover? Ani? Dean. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, carried. Okay, we have an agenda item about remuneration for elected representatives. And so can you move to the next? The remuneration for directors was last considered in 2019 at the AGM at Porou. It's timely for us to review the level of remuneration for Runanganui board members, given the increasing scale of activity. Independent advisor Strategic Pay has reviewed organizations of a similar profile and asset size and reported that fee levels have increased in recent times. The recommended fee range is set out in the following table. At the moment, which was approved at the AGM in 2019, the chair was 60,000, the deputy chair was 37,500, the directors, of which were 12, received 30,000, and committee members on fees received an extra 15. So our governance pool was 457,500. The recommended fees, if you should, as the AGM, agree with it, is that the chairs be raised to 78,000, the deputy chair be raised to 47,000, and the directors will be raised to 39, and keeping the committee members' fees at 1,500.
That's on the next slide.
Oh, okay. But that's the rationale as where we've got to. Hello. Okay. Well, can we go to the other recommendation, please? That's the motion that's been moved by Lil Tangare Baldwin, that the annual fees for the board of directors of Te Runanganui o Ngati Porou Trustee Limited be set as follows: chair 78, deputy chair 47, board members 39, committee fees 15, and new fees to commence on the 1st of January. Lil has moved that. Is there a seconder? Oh, Liz Elbeth Ngarimu. Is there any discussion? I'll put the motion.
I'd like to discuss that. Can I ask, in terms of the background work, how many board members sit on some of these other boards that are earning comparative amounts like that? I'm mindful that our board is 14, and a whole lot of other boards of directors probably sit on something like 5 and 7. So that's just my first question. Can somebody sort of let me know that?
Well, there are 2 trustees on Toitu.
No, in comparison to other boards throughout the country, because if we're setting,
We didn't do that with other boards throughout the country.
So that's why I'm asking my question, is because we're making comparisons around what directors should get in comparison to what other people get. I thought my mouth was big enough. In comparison to what other directors get across the country. So, yeah, I personally just think that's far too much for us. I would sort of like to think that, the new board coming in, a review of our constitution, some deliverables. I mean, we've done a great job. The stuff you've all presented is fabulous, and we're doing crackerjack. But I just think when I feel the poverty of our peeps, and those remunerations are still quite handsome. So I just wanted to say, because I'm not the kind of person who will bitch about it outside and not have it say inside. Okay? Kia ora.
Kia ora. Thanks, Agnes.
I'm against the motion.
Kapai. We'll note that. Can I just say that Strategic Pay is the independent advisor on this matter. It's always contentious, so it's always better to get some independent advice. it'd be fair to say that, in my opinion, that they still got it wrong in the sense that they undershot what they should be paying. You look at the scale of the activity and the operations of our runanga, they are no longer small, and I think the remuneration reflects the work that needs to go into looking after it. There is a lot more going on in our organisation now than perhaps there was even a couple of years ago. I'd like to, yeah, Kate Pai, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, George.
Yep.
Philip Pope, you wanted to say something.
I just wanted to say, as a shareholder, kia ora koutou, just the question about how does it compare. I'm also a shareholder of Mangatu Blocks. These payments here are significantly less than what's given at Mangatu Blocks. So, you know, I just like to tautoko what George said. I think it's a responsibility day in, day out, and I think it needs to recognise that.
Kia ora. Anyone else? I've got no vested interest in this, and 12 others of us have got no invested interest. I think, as George said, this is on a lower scale than what we want. But I think that we have come of age to be actually recompensing our directors that we elect in this fashion. I can remember when I was a trustee and the fees was $32.50. And we used to have meetings in Ruatoria, and we never had mileage and all those things. And then we went through that time, and we managed to get a raise. And at Porou 2019, I recall it was quite a big debate. Eventually, the people voted for the raise, and I think this is something that we should support. Kia ora. Ani.
Tēnā tātou, ko ani Pāhuru Huriwai Awau, outgoing Director for Te Runanganui o Ngati Porou, Rohe Ngati Porou 1, and really want to mihi to Wayne and Pohatu kei konei.
Not on that yet.
Ngā kano he hau, mo tō tātou takiwā. I wanted to pick up on what you said, Agnes, and to be fair, it's not a comfortable thing to talk about at the board table. It was one of the first things we had to talk about when we all came into being all those years ago, and it was a long debate. For the reasons you talk about, our whānau are resting in poverty, and it's not a nice thing to be having a kōrero about. As Selwyn said, 12 of us who have helped to, I guess, reach this stage where we're at now in terms of this motion, we had a long wānanga about it again and sent out, as George said, got some help from consultants for how much are other boards being paid. But we're not other boards. We live in Ngati Porou and also understand the issues that are on top of our people right now. But there's the cost of living and all of that, our fuel, all of those things have gone up as well. And this was probably the lowest we could go in terms of, in comparative to what others are making. What the new board also has to decide is around the director fees for other boards. Toitu, as you know, Toitu Ngati Porou Oranga, Ngati Porou Holdings. So, I mean, growth, aroha mai, Ngati growth. So it wasn't an easy decision, but I want to tautoko Lil's motion. There's a lot of work to be done, and it's up to us to hold our representatives to account, and our chair and our deputy to account for the fees that they're going to be receiving. So I tautoko the motion. Tēnā koutou, and good luck to the new boari.
So the mover was Lil, and the seconder was Elizabeth Ngati. Okay. Rhonda, you wanted to say something?
Speaking as a shareholder, not as a staff member. I'd like to support the motion. The reason I'd like to support the motion is to give value to the very important work that all the directors do in the name of all of us. Yes, our whānau are in abject poverty in a lot of our spaces, but the way that we rise from that is by having good governance, and directors are charged with that. And I believe that they deserve to be paid at the level suggested, which I believe is conservative, because they deserve to be supported in their important work. Kia ora tātou.
Kia ora. Anybody else wanting to say something? I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against? Aye. One, two, three. Four. One, four. Anyone? How many outside against? One. Thank you. The motion has been carried. Thank you very much, everybody. Kia ora. What's our next thing? Oh. Before I move on to the election results, I just want to acknowledge long-serving staff in Tromp-Nui. There are four still with Tromp-Nui, and that's Pip Tako, Monty Manuel, Albie McFarlane, and Leanne Morris, in excess of 20 years. Plus two who have recently finished but served 20 years plus or longer, and that was Anne Huriway and Tarls Roberts. So, I'd just like to, in saying that, I'd like to thank all our staff for the sterling work they've done over the last 12 months, and may it continue. And thank you, George, you and your leadership. Nā reira koutou, tēnā tātou, kia ora tātou katoa. We'll move on to the election results, and you all know, is there another one up? Yes, and you all know who they are. I'd just like to welcome them to the AGM. We have Wayne Abraham and Pohatu Potu representing Potikirua ki Whangaokena. Can you two stand up, please? Who's on that camera? So turn it around. Whangaokena ki Waiapu, Taryn Papuni and Patrick Tangaire. You stand up, Patrick, please. Taryn's given her apologies. Pohotea ki Te One Poto, George Cornier and Hekia Parata. And George is here. Oh, did you stand up? I didn't see you. You must have been. Sorry. Te One Poto ki Rahui Manuka, Rohenga Tipuna Whaa, Watty Goldsmith and Karen Tangi ki ngā Ngati Rangi Maklachi. Can they come in, please? While they're coming in. Rahui Manuka ki Matahu, Rohinga Tipuna 5, Bobby Morris and Kanewa Stokes. Kanewa. Watty and Karen, can you just come in so we can get a picture of you? Watty, just come in. Oh, Bobby's cooking our hakari. And Matahu ki Kokoro Nui, Nā Raihania and Juanita Timu, coming. Otherwise known as Fiti. Tomo mai korua. And Tēnā kōrua. And kokoro nui ki te toka a tai au, Alana Irwin and Annette Wehi. Is Alana out? Oh, Taryn is here too. Yeah. I'm saying to get on the film because this is this is a historic moment. The Alana. Oh, Alana, okay. Thank you. And you will be having your board meeting in in December, early December. Yeah. Nau mai, tau mai ki roto i ngā tūranga a te Runanganui o Ngati Porou. Tēnā koutou. Kia ora koutou. Hang on. Oh, no, there was something else. Can I have a mover for the report of the operations for the financial year and the chairman's report, please? And the Trudy's moved, Agnes second. All those in favour, please say aye. To the contrary. We're on to general business. What did you want to say something? Okay, we're on to general business. Has anybody got any general business?
Kei te mōhio katoko tau e rua no māua I eke anō ki te pōri. Ko māua ko nā. Nē reira he tuake tēnei ki te mihi atu ki o māua hoa, ko makere I tēnei tau. Ētahi o rātau e hara te mea kāre te tangata e pōti mō rātau. I runga noa ngā kōrero a te trust deed I makere rātau ko pau te wā a ki a rātau. Ko Sir Selwyn tētahi, ko Lil tētahi, ko Ani Pāuru tētahi, ko Ray tētahi.
Marika, a tui.
Ko Tui tētahi. E reira ka nui rā te mihi atu ki a rātau. He tika anō hoki kia mihi ki tō tātou chairmana. Mō tana kaha I te tautoko ki te kōkiri anō hoki ngā kaupapa o Ngati Porou I roto I ngā tau ko pahure ake nei. Engari, I whakaro ake au kia tukuna tēnā wāhi ki te pāpa nei kia Jericho, mane mihatu ki tō tātou rangatira e noho nei. Tēnā tātou.
Oh, okay.
Kōrua moko e ngunguru nei. E hara o te tangata kōrero, engari, ko taka mai tēnei ahuatanga ke runga kia. E kēnā te tahi kōrero anō te atāhua, o te huihuinga tahitanga o ngā taina, o ngā tuakana, I raro I te whakaro o kutai. Te tenga kumiti nei, I hara mai kia o Iwahora. Hei, ango, te he mātou mō mahau e whakanui. Ane, kia Solomon Trasta. Ia au e hara mai ana ki ngā hui nei. Aha moho e tono ki te tangata nei, kia Solomon. Engari, kia te tamarikita. Kia ona ngā rero ke huru no. Engari, kia ona ma. E whakanui ana o kia ea. Ko takani tēnei kaupapa e runga I kia e. Ko tā. Engari, kia ona na karawa mohi o. Tēnei ahuatanga o te tā. Pēnei o tā siu. Pēnei o he tā siu mai I ro tōre ki tiga. Te mahi o mātou rori. Engari, ko puta mai te minita o te hahai o te City Council. Nā, te mātou hui I tikapa I pōkai maraia. Nō reira Selwyn, ka nui ngā mihi kia koe ko tānei, koe ki tēnei ahuatanga o te tā. Kia ana ara moho te hea te ingo Pākea mo te tā. Nā kunui whakaro, he Sir. Engari, ka wā te o haere ni te kura, ko Sir te pāpā o Selwyn, Ron Porata. Ai, ko ia tako kura maheta I Manutahi District High School. Tangata whai, te rau I keo. Ka mahi he mātou a pātika mātou whiroriki. Whai keo te tangata nei around, engari tako hoki tanga mai. Turu te kau mā tū rua, I ngā rautou I rotore. Tako hoki tanga mai, ahika, ko mateke te pāpā nei, e whakanui nei au, kia rong, pāta. No reira rong. Nā hāhuatanga e pāna ki te tangata nei kia rong. Tangata roa kia. Tangata kororo te reo pākea. No reira kia koe Selwyn. Tēnā koe. Hanui ngā mihi kia koe mo tēnei. Rangatira ki nua kia koe. No reira tēnā koe, tēnā koe. Tēnā tātou katoa. Kia. E hara I te mea, noi nai nei te aroha, no ngā tūpuna, tuku iho. E toru e ni kupu. E whakaro te korora te kia. Ane, ki tā tātou rangatira o te rungranga o Ngati Porou. Manaakitanga, whanaungatanga, ārohatanga. Nō reira ke tau e ni kupu ki nunga ki tēnei o tātou rangatira o te rungranga o Ngati Porou. Nō reira tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou.
Kia ora tātou. E tūanga hau I roto I taku whare tipuna a whakahapo hasanei. Te tautoko ngā kōrero e pāna ki taku tungane a Heruini. No te mea, ko ngā kōrero, tēnā koe te pāpa. Te nuinga o ngā kōrero e pāna ki tō māua pāpa, ki te kāinga o Ruatorea nei. Ka hara mai ki roto iau te whakaaro me tū hoki ahau, te tautoko, ngā mihi kua mihia ki aia. I rungi te whānui o ngā mahi I mahia e ia mō tēnei whā te kau pēr I aia I roto I te runanga, I roto I ngā neke hanga e pāna ki a tātou o te wākainga nei, e pāna ki te whakawhānui atu ki Aotearoa whānui, atu I tērā ki te ao whānui. Kei te mōhio ahau, ko tētahi o ngā kōrero o te kāinga nei, kāre te kumara e kōrero ana mo tōna ake reka, hoi anō e tū ana tēnei kumara, te kōrero mo te reka o taku tungane, mo āna mahi katoa I waha e ia mō ēnei wāroa. Nō reira, aroha mai me he mea, kare he tikanga pai tēnei, ka huri ahau I roto I te reo Pākehā, nā te mea kare e pakari ana hau ki tēnei reo pērā taku tungane, kia mōhio katoa koutou aku whakaaro mō Selwyn. So as I've just said, it's not usual for someone to get up from the immediate family or indeed from the wider whānau to talk about the credits, the achievements, the struggles, the challenges that someone in their own family has met. But I'm doing that because kapohanga is the first place that I was expected to be able to get to my feet and entertain and inform and explain. And I have been forever grateful to have had this background as I have gone out into the world to try to do what I can to make it a better place. Selwyn was born in 1956 to our parents, and my mother is on the wall, Hiria Te Kiakia, Reedy, born to the hapu of this area and brought up at Te Horo amongst our kaua relations and those from that side of the awa. So, and our father, Rosalind Rahui Parata, burst into Ruatoria after World War II to reconnect with the friends that he had made in C Company, having been a D Company soldier from Ngaitahu. So Selwyn is the eldest of our family of 5 boys and 5 girls. We're a very symmetrical family. We were celebrating Selwyn's 20th birthday when our baby sister, Keita Kapuarangi, was born. So there's exactly 20 years between the oldest and the youngest in our family, and there are 5 boys and 5 girls. Having only had 2 myself, I whakamihi to my mother and all those other mothers here who've gone on and done it repetitive times. From a really early age, Selwyn was committed to the cultural dimensions of our identity as Ngātis. He grew up in many homes around not just Ruatoria but further afield. He went and learnt the haka from people like Maru Karaka. I'm going to get all of these wrong. You know, listen to the reo ake of Papa Petuere Rāroa, out at out at Daddy Boy and Nanny Annie's, Tutu Matai. Who's the auntie that, what was her name? Anyway, point is, Selwyn was on one bus or another, or on somebody's car or the back of a truck, and he was going off to learn, kurati waka, kiringutu, all of those haka, all of our mōteatea. Anyone who's had anything to do with him knows he's like a jukebox for Ngati Porou, waiata, mōteatea, haka, waiata āringa. Tokomaru Bay, went down there, stayed with Auntie Ngoi and all of that whānau, and is also well versed in the songs of Te Hoko Whitu Atu. While we were at Ngata College, he led our Māori club as it was known then. It's a kapa haka now, but when we were at school in our generation, it was the Māori club, and made sure that we of that generation grew up knowing all of those songs. I remember that he arranged for Auntie Roki Kaua to come and teach us the World War II songs at the RSA. We all learnt them, and they are anchored in our generation, and that's something that we have responsibility, I think, for keeping alive. Anyway, that's the sort of thing that Selwyn did. In our home, our father was absolutely committed to English as the language of our upbringing and our education, and our mother was absolutely committed to te reo ake o Ngati Porou. And it was not a happy situation, and Selwyn committed to learning our language and all its difference and beauty and distinctiveness and humour, which is te reo o Ngati Porou. And to this day, he has maintained that commitment. He went to St. Stephen's. I think he's one of the very few handful of people that's been head prefect of 2 schools in one education, so of Ngata Memorial College and then of Tiepene. A rugby player, a very good rugby player, and I say this without causing any embarrassment, 3 of my brothers were born with challenges to their feet and legs. Norman, Winiata and Selwyn. And despite that, Selwyn became a representative hooker for Counties Manukau. Before that, led a great, powerful first 15 at St. Stephen's, full of very handsome boys, I might remark. Led that kura with great distinction. After that, he's worked in the freezing works, he's worked in helping to establish kohanga reo here and across the country. He worked on our Ngaitahu side because we felt that there needed to be some sort of whakapātu ki te taho o tō tātou pāpa, and our wonderful and brilliant parata grandmother and that side of us. So Selwyn spent time down in Christchurch working for Te Runanga o Ngaitahu. And serendipitously, that is where he met and fell in love with his wonderful wife and life partner, Amohaere Haukamo. And it seems that, you know, it is part of us to go out and meet each other in the rest of the world and then come home again. I'm thinking of push for somebody. But anyway, so they came home and made it their business to continue the work on behalf of our iwi, but also in the interests of all iwi of this country, and in so doing, in strengthening the bicultural foundation of this country, which is about to come under more challenges, I might add. Selwyn and Amo have four beautiful children, Awhina, Ngarimu, Rapaya, and Te Muiora, and the heart of the hearts and souls of their lives, their mokopuna. And during all this time, he has been committed to us. Now, we've just had a discussion about what that's worth. I can tell you that Selwyn has lived and breathed the aspirations of Ngati Porou before we became an official runanga or iwi authority, before we transformed into Te Runanganui or Ngati Porou. There's not 24 hours in his day. I don't know how you do it, Sano. You're up before dawn with your karakia to all of us and to the rest of the ao. You work every hour of the day in the interests of our commercial and business activities, our social and cultural strength, our mana here at home and out in the wide world. And beyond that, you have cheered and strengthened the most celebrated and biggest indigenous cultural body in the world, Te Matatini. Beyond that, you are an active participant in maintaining Te Hahi Mihingare and our involvement in that spiritual life. You go to every tangi it's possible to go to. You go to every birthday and wedding it's possible to go to. I mean, our brother Parekura Horomi got onto the front bench of Parliament for doing all of that, and you've continued to do it for all of us. And in that time, you have developed a reputation for yourself. Your reputation has been developed such that you have now been accorded the highest honour of our nation, which is to be knighted as Sir Selwyn Parata. We know that that is yet to be honoured and put into practice. We know that that is waiting upon the Governor-General to agree to do that here at home, because that is what you have requested, and we are waiting upon the Governor-General to do the right thing and agree that you should be honoured as you wish to be amongst your people, and in honouring you, honour all of us. So I just wanted to share a bit more about it. He's been shaped and formed by many fabulous Ngati Porou people, and Ngati Porou women in particular. I think of our Ngarimu aunties, nannies, who not only strongly supported him and invested in him, but disciplined him as well, as they did us too. So, aunties up and down, and I'm not gonna, sorry, I know I've named our beautiful Ngarimu ones, but many more have also been formative for him and for us. So I just felt that I just couldn't sit here at a time when he is standing down from a kaupapa he has given so much to, and I'm just going to say this, often thanklessly. Anyone in public life, just be aware your path is not strewn with roses, and, you know, champagne corks are not popped in your, on your behalf, and doves are not set free to fly. We are a hard people, Aotearoa New Zealand and Ngati Porou. We demand a lot of our leaders, and we are often short in acknowledging and thanking them. And I am not, we all are very good at identifying what wasn't done, what should have been done, what went wrong, and so forth. But I commend to all of us that we maybe practice our gratitude gene a bit more and thank the people who are prepared to put their foot forward and their shoulder to the wheel that is in the interests of all of us. And my big brother and our whanaunga has done that many years, many times over, and I want to thank him on behalf of our family, from whom he has often been absent, serving the iwi. Just going to say, despite all his efforts to be an acrobat to get to several things all at the same time, he just often has not been. And we have accepted that that has been a responsibility that he has accepted, and it is not for us to cavil about, but just to support him. And I know sometimes we've fallen short on that too, Sano. Hoi anō rā, koe nā noi ho mō tēnei wā, he whakamihi, he whakanui, ki aia mo ana mahi katoa, and for the tautoko that he's had from Amo Haere, from Amo Haere's whānau, and from all of us here. So, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Kia ora.
Tēnā tātou. I'm not close family of Selwyn, but we are both Ngai Tahu, as well as Ngati Porou, and he has married into close family of mine. But I did want to stand up and just give a different perspective. Thank you, Hekia, for that thorough coverage of things that we would not all know, but that we all should know. So thank you. I just really want to speak from the board point of view, and particularly as a deputy chair to Selwyn. Selwyn was a long-time deputy to Uncle Api, and served Uncle Api well, and the iwi. And he's been a great chair. When he took over the chair, I took over the deputy chair role that he was in before Uncle Api died. Now I'll just talk a little bit about Api briefly. He used to say all the time, the mana of Ngati Porou must never be compromised. The mana of Ngati Porou can never be delegated. The mana of Ngati Porou is paramount. Now Selwyn reflects and holds all those, and more actually in some ways. And that's important because you always know where he's coming from. I've learned to trust his instincts in Ngati Porou's not I would say defence, but just in representing Ngati Porou. I've learned to trust his instincts. Sometimes I've wondered, and sometimes I've disagreed at the start, but we've had we have a good relationship that we work through and realise we're both coming from the same place differently, and we get to somewhere that we know is right. But I've learned in that time that whereas I might start here, I end up recognising that his instincts for Ngati Porou have been right. And that won't change. I mean, he's not leaving us. He's just stepping down from the board. I don't know whether he would have or would not have if he didn't have to. I know there are other things in life that he wants to do and can do those, but he will always represent Ngati Porou. He's on the Iwi Chairs Forum, and I think he's possibly the only one in Ngati Porou that can represent us at that forum in the way that we need done. He's made it easy for me as deputy. He's never missed a meeting. I've never had to chair one board meeting at all. He's never missed one meeting, and I believe he didn't miss any of the Runanganui meetings before that. And so that just shows his commitment. Well, I never got the chance to be the and never will. No, not really. But from the board's point of view, and on behalf of the board, Selwyn, thank you for the strength of your leadership and the guidance and sometimes insistence that we do things a certain way. And as a board, we've done things that we've all agreed on, but certainly you lay down a marker. Anyway, I don't want to say much more than that, but on behalf of the board, if I may, ka nui te mihi ki a koe, ka nui te aroha, ko reira tēnā koe, tēnā tātou katoa.
No other general business? Oh.
I'm sorry, I do have a general business, and I by no means want to detract from all the previous kōrero to our chairperson, and I certainly endorse all of that. I don't necessarily need to have a reply, but it's really incumbent upon myself to ask this question or pose the thinking around what is noho kāinga. So I just think we celebrate te reo mana tikanga o Ngati Porou, and I was around through pre-establishment of the Ngati Porou Runanga, and the rohe were actually set on residing within the rohe, and then when we went to the PSGE, it was extended to reside within Te Toka Taio ki Pōtikirua. So it's beholden on myself as a person who's been around forever and ever, who's never ceased from asking the difficult question for thyself, because to me, it would be an absolute indictment on te reo mana tikanga o Ngati Porou. Kia ora, and I don't need an answer. And
Mr. Chair, on behalf of our marae, and I would say all marae, is just like to acknowledge the support that we've received from Toitu, not only this past year, but for the last 12 years. We've really appreciated the support and it'd be great for it to continue.
Tēnā tātou. I just want to endorse the point that Agnes has raised. And while there is no requirement for this hui necessarily to respond, the opportunity, and I'm looking at the new board members, is in terms of the review of a Tromp Nui constitution. And I think my understanding is while the intent was very clear, Agnes, as you recall, the intent, and I think it stems from the challenge that Pine Taiapa made to Uncle Koro and Uncle Api when they were living in Wellington and Palmerston, and trying to run Ngati Porou from Wellington and Palmerston. And he basically said to them, you cannot kaia the Ngati Porou haka from Wellington or Palmerston or indeed anywhere else but then in Ngati Porou. And so the intent has always been that the leadership and the definition of noho kāinga is that the person resides within the rohe. We can own property, as some of us do, but live outside of the rohe. That does not constitute noho kāinga. Because, as Hekia and Ray have described, the role of a chairman and deputy chairman are 24/7. You have to be on call when you receive a phone call that basically says we've got the Prime Minister turning up tomorrow. You cannot have a chair who lives in Auckland or Hastings when those are the sorts of rapid turnaround in which you have to be available to respond. Hence, the clarity of that intent about ensuring the chair and the deputy chair were noho kāinga. So, as the constitution currently stands, the wording needs to be explicit around that intent. Kia ora.
Other general business? Kia ora, tēnā koutou. Tēnā tātou Ngati Porou. Tātou I whakawāte I a tātou I roto I te whakaruke mai o tāwhiri mātea. Kia whai wāhi tātou ki roto I tēnei hui a tau. E mihi ana kia koutou. E mihi ana ki te hunga, kei runga I te ipurangi. E hono nei ki tā tātou hui. A tātou hui kia koutou e pai nei o taringa ki te reo o te iwi ki tō tātou teihana kia te ruirangi o Ngati Porou. Hoi anō, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou, kia ora tātou katoa. No te ātāhua, te noho tahitanga o ngā taina me ngā tuākana, I raro te whakaro tahi. Tēnei tātou, I raro I te tāhu o tō tātou tipuna whareia, kapohanga ārangi, e tāuhi nei I tōna aroha, ki runga kia tātou. Nā reira, huri noa, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou, kia ora tātou katoa. Te ngā here, anō ko papa ko haiti ara, te nunga toro, te puma toro ki te ao. Anō te ite ki te ngā here, Anō kua papa ko haiti ara mahana hana ana. Te puma toro I te ao. Hoi anōra I ka mā, tuku whakamuimiti whakawheta ena mātou kia koe I hoa mua au manākitanga katoa. Me te ino te kia koe ke tono heo te tō mairangi o tau āta whai ki runga ki tēnei huihuinga. O tira ki a Ngati Porou kei te kāinga, ki a Ngati Porou kei te whenua, ki a Ngati Porou kei te ao. Arahina mātou I runga ngā huarahi o te tika o te pono o te māramatanga. E tae e mātou te whakaro nui tētahi ki tētahi, whakaro nui tētahi ki tētahi. Manā ki tia mātou te roangake o tēnei rā, E hoki pai e mātou ki o mātou kāinga ki o mātou whakaruru i tēnei ahi pō, kia tai pai atu ki reira, i raro i aupari rau tapu i o manakita. Si ro ata whai mai ki runga ki a mātou, tia kina mātou, pai here tia mātou katoa, i roto i taurangi Māori e mutunga kore kuihu kaito ki tō mātou ariki. Amen. Kia ora tātou.